Hello, everyone. Welcome to Convocations today. I'm not normally the one up here introducing people. My name's Dr. Eric Freeman. I'm in the history department, taking over, and Cheryl asked me to do this for her today, who has a cough, so I'm here to help. We are so pleased to have Elizabeth Smart and Miyo Strong with us today from the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. The abduction of Elizabeth Smart was one of the most followed child abduction cases of our time. Elizabeth was abducted in June 5th, 2002, and her captors controlled her by threatening to kill her and her family if she tried to escape. Fortunately, the police safely returned Elizabeth back to her family on March 12th, 2003, after being held prisoner for 9 months. Through this traumatic experience, Elizabeth has become an advocate for change related to child abduction, recovery programs, and national legislation. Elizabeth triumphantly testified before her captor and the world about the very private nightmare that she suffered during her abduction, which led to his conviction. The founder of the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, Elizabeth has helped promote the National Amber Alert, the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act, and other safety legislation to help prevent abductions. Elizabeth's experiences continue to motivate parents, law enforcement, and leaders worldwide to focus on children's safety. She emphasizes vigilance in everyday people and the belief that hope always exists to find every missing child. Smart attended Brigham Young University studying music as a harp performance major. She married her husband Matthew in 2012, and they now have 2 beautiful children. She's the author of My Story, Where There's Hope, and the founder of the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. Her example is a daily demonstration that, that there really is life after tragedy. We are also going to hear from Miyo Strong, aka Utahjitsmama, if I'm saying that correctly. And she is a brown belt under Johnny Carlquist and James Gardner of the Unified Jiu Jitsu. She is also the program director of the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, where she leads the cutting-edge self-defense program, Smart Defense, and she made her MMA debut at age 43, raising $15,000 in scholarship for Smart Defense. Miyo holds the title of Master World Champion at a purple belt in both Gi and no Gi, as well as being the current 3-time brown belt master, world champion, and feather. She is passionate about growing, supporting, and advocating all females in combat sports, but especially in jiu-jitsu. As a busy mother of 2 incredible daughters, she believes strongly in leading by example, and Miyo currently coaches at Atlas Combat Sports, Crown Jiu-Jitsu, as well as being a fully certified coach for the prestigious Jim Jones for strength and conditioning. So we'd like to welcome both Elizabeth and Miyo now.
Does this? Oh, okay, this works. Hi, I'm Miyo. Elizabeth will be out in a second. I have brought with me Lila Shelley, and she is actually a Smart Defense alumni, and we have some current students here as well. Yes, hi, yay! So our Smart Defense program is amazing. It is not only for women, we also have a bystander awareness program, and basically how to be the best version of you as a man for our men's program as well. So right now, and I'm trying to scan for any of our students in our male program, but Marcus Johnson leads that program. It's amazing. So if you guys can, please, please, please think about registering for spring semester. That's the next time we're gonna be offering it. So what I'm gonna quickly do is just, Lila's gonna give you a quick demonstration. Now granted, we haven't trained together in like months and months. August. Okay, so it's been a few months. Yeah, so she's gonna show you 2 different techniques that we learn in Smart Defense, and then I'll go into a little bit more about our program and why it's different and why we really believe that it can make a difference, not only in your lives, but the lives of everybody that's in contact with you. Okay, so she's gonna do 2 palm strikes, and some knees. Any of you, raise your hands if you guys have had any striking experience. Boxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, anything like that? Okay, awesome. So you'll recognize this. We actually don't teach you how to strike with a closed fist because that actually does more damage to you than to your opponent. So we do open palm strikes. So she's going to show you 2 open palm strikes, followed by 2 knees, followed by another. Well, let's do 2 palm strikes, 2 knees, and then end it with another palm strike. Okay? Okay, I'll cue you. We got. She's the best, and she's not even college age, you guys. She's high school, so that takes a lot of guts to do that. She's the best. So one of the things that we teach you not only are these like really cool martial arts techniques, but we teach you to use your voice. So did you notice how loud she was? How much space she took up? There were like there's no confusion as to what her message was to me. So we do this voice technique because over 50% of all sexually violent attacks will end if you just use your voice, right? So it's really cool. It's super fun to learn how to choke people, to learn how to get out of hair pulls, to learn how to do all these like hyper aggressive moves to keep yourself safe. But really at the core of smart defense, we want you to learn how to use your voice, how to set clear and healthy boundaries, how to be an advocate and a support system for your friends and family, because I'm going to let you in on some statistics for Utah. It's pretty sad. In the nation, right, not just Utah, but in the nation, 1 in 5 females will experience sexual violence in their lifetime, right? So you look in this room, there's a lot of women in this room, right? In Utah, it's 1 in 3. So our numbers are way worse than the nation. And that's just based on reported cases. We already realize that there's a lot of reasons why women and girls don't report. So the 1 in 3 numbers are just based on reported cases. Now for men, it's 1 in 7. So while they're not the same numbers, they're still way too high, right? Way too high for what we want. So in our Smart Defense program, we combine Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is all the stuff I was just talking about, like the cool chokes and arm bars and leg locks and all the ways to do damage to the human body to keep yourself safe. But we also incorporate Muay Thai kickboxing, which is what Lila just did. So all of this striking, and Muay Thai uses, it's called the art of 8 limbs for a reason. Now you think, I don't have 8 limbs, I have 4 limbs. But we learn to use our elbows and our knees effectively as well. So that's where that Muay Thai kickboxing comes in. And then we also use something called Krav Maga. Has anybody heard of Krav Maga? A couple of you. So it's a national martial art of Israel, and every Israeli citizen is required to serve in their military. And that is their hand-to-hand combatives, Krav Maga. That's what they teach. Who knows what the UFC is, or cage fighting? Raise your hands. Okay, not that many. Okay, so everything in the UFC that is illegal comes from Krav Maga. So all the testicle ripping and the groin striking and the eye gouging, all of those really, really nasty, dirty, very effective techniques are illegal in the cage for a reason, right? Even the biggest, toughest, baddest, strongest man is going to be stopped short if you touch his brain through his tear duct. Right? And I know, people are like, eee, but if you dare put your hands on somebody without consent, be prepared for that as your answer, right? So we go through a lot of those physical techniques, but we also incorporate meditation and breath work. Now that doesn't sound as fun or as fancy, but it is just as effective. Studies have shown that the more mindful you can be, the louder your intuition is. And your intuition is your first line of defense, right? Your intuition, your voice. You have skills that you can develop that don't even require you to eye gouge somebody, right? We want you to learn how to use your voice effectively to keep yourself safe. The meditation is a framework to be mindful. It's also helpful with anxiety, depression, handling stress, right? I just described you my freshman year of college. Anxiety, depression, and stress, right? It's so hard to make the transition from living at home in high school to college. And that's why we love being able to offer this class to every age range that is attending Snow College. We want you guys to understand that you have tools, you have resources. We also partner with Campus Safety. If you guys have questions about what the resources are available to you, who to talk to, who to get help from, we'll connect you. And also with that breath work and meditation comes a strong sense of self-worth, right? We do exercises in every single class surrounding growing our self-worth and our self-confidence. Because I truly do believe at the root of the best, most effective self-defense is understanding you are worthy of healthy relationships. You are worthy of healthy love, healthy marriages, you name it. Because almost it's between 86 and 89% of all sexual violence happens at the hands of somebody that already has access to us, that's already in our circles, right? Whether it's our boyfriend, our Tinder date, our coach, our teammate, our clergy member, like you name it. If they have access to us, that is our largest group of threats. So we want to work on that self-worth, not only for the depression, the anxiety, the managing stress, but also as an effective tool for self-protection and self-defense. So I'm really, really proud to say that we are here now at Snow College, and I want to give a big thank you to First Colony Mortgage and Corey, Shelley. I know you hate it when I talk about you, but this is not possible, right? It's really hard. And also President McGiff, giving the acknowledgement to our program and the opportunities to these students is so important, and it's because of a president that cares, a staff that cares. They see the need and they take the steps, right? They don't just talk about it. They don't just meet about it over and over again. They take action. And I'm very, very proud to be here, and I'm so excited we have some students here, and I want to, you'll hear from Elizabeth and you'll hear some more details that are even more incentivizing to take the class. And those incentives are made possible by our partnership with First Colony Mortgage. And Corey is a Snow alumni. He's been here, and I believe you first 2 years were here? 1 year was here. So we're really, really glad to continue that relationship and that partnership. And a big thank you to President McGiff. Where is she? She's the best dressed president I've ever seen, you guys. I love, every time I see you, you just look amazing. And she, by the time we're done, maybe we'll come up and demo some of those palm strikes as well. She learned that as well, right? And how badass is that? Oh, can I swear? I'm sorry. How incredible is it to have a leader, right, be willing to be uncomfortable? It's not her comfort zone, right? It's my comfort zone to be choking people and to be striking people. It's not my comfort zone to be up here talking. But she does both things really, really well, so we'll see what we can convince her to do. But I would like to introduce and welcome Elizabeth Smart to the stage.
Oh, awesome. Great. I am very happy to be here with you today. Very thankful for this opportunity. Thank you again, Corey. Thank you again, President. This is amazing. And I don't know all the reasons why everyone here showed up today, but I want to say thank you for showing up because it is a big deal. Mee-yoh kind of stole my thunder when she started sharing statistics and everything, because I was going to bring those up and talk about them, because unfortunately, sexual violence, sexual assault is so common, but it's a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard topic to think about. And so sometimes it's just easier to not. It's sometimes easier just to pick a different topic to feel passionate about because there is so much darkness within this topic. Now, the demonstration that Mee-yoh showed you earlier, I did not know how to do that. I I was not raised to fight. I was not raised to scream or yell. You know, I grew up in Salt Lake. I grew up in a really nice neighborhood in Salt Lake City. And as far as I knew, nothing bad ever happened in our neighborhood. I mean, I didn't hear about crimes happening in our neighborhood. I didn't hear about bad things happening in our neighborhood. If they did happen, it was I was out on the west side of the valley. It was never up in my neighborhood. So I continued on in my happy little bubble, thinking that nothing bad ever happened and that I would never need to know how to defend myself. I would never need to know how to protect myself because there wouldn't be a need for it. I mean, I very much had that mentality, had that mindset. And unfortunately, like, I found out pretty brutally that there is no such thing as a perfect place. There is no such thing as a neighborhood or a town or a city, no matter how big or small, where bad things don't happen. I mean, they happen everywhere. Maybe we just don't see them in some places, but they do happen. And that's a little bit unnerving to think about if you really sit and, like, if you're sitting on your front porch and you're looking down your street and you're thinking, okay, I wonder how many women there are on my street. There's 10 houses, let's say, including women and girls, there's 10 girls, 15 females on this street. If we take Miyo's statistic that she shared, 1 in 3, that means 5 of the women on your street. If there's 15 women that live on your street, 5 of those women have been sexually assaulted. And that's terrible. That should not happen. And one of the terrible things about sexual assault is that it's very difficult to come forward. It's very difficult to talk about it because you're looked at a little bit different. Like, everybody wants to know, what were the circumstances? Where were you at? What were you wearing? What time of day was it? And the truth is that none of those should even play a role in that conversation. The fact is, somebody violated you against your will. That should be enough right there. It shouldn't take any more than that. But unfortunately, that's not really the world we live in. And so it does make it harder and harder and harder for victims to speak up and to share their stories and talk about what happened. That was me. Honestly, that was me. I didn't talk about bad things. Well, I didn't think bad things happened prior to my kidnapping. I was in junior high. I was about to graduate from junior high. It was the night before I was about to graduate, which, like, I suppose I can only speak for myself, but I feel like a lot of people would agree with me when I say puberty has got to be the worst time in a person's life. Like, is there a worse time in life? I just don't know. Like, getting changed for gym, like in the locker room. I mean, like, I'm a late bloomer in a lot of things, and I did not need a bra in junior high, but I definitely wore one because I had to get changed. But that was awkward. Like, who likes doing? I did not like doing that. I mean, I was very shy. I was very quiet. I was just, like, there were a lot of things about junior high that I hated. And frankly, I thought once I made it to high school, all of those things would disappear. I mean, honestly, that was pretty naive of me to think that, because I feel like high school is kind of like a continuation of junior high, and it's only when you get to college that it gets better, that it's fun, that it's like you're making decisions that will alter and affect the rest of your life. And I don't know, I guess I just preferred college way better than I did high school or junior high. But regardless of all of that, night before I was about to graduate, I went to bed. Nothing about that day stood out. And that night I woke up to a man standing above me with a knife at my neck, telling me he said, "Don't make a sound, I've got a knife at your neck, get up and come with me." And honestly, my home is my safe place. Even to this day, my home is my safe place. Like, my bedroom is my sanctuary. Like, in my mind, bad things don't happen in my bedroom. Bedrooms are for sleeping. Sleeping makes me happy. I imagine it makes most other people happy as well. So I couldn't believe that I was hearing this voice in my bedroom, so I didn't immediately respond. I just laid there. And then I heard the voice again, repeating the same words, saying, "Don't make a sound. I have a knife at your neck. Get up and come with me." And the second time that I heard this voice, I could feel someone's hand on my arm trying to pull me out of bed. And I could feel something sharp and cold lying across my neck. And I remember opening my eyes, and sure enough, there's this man standing above me. And for the first time, really, truly, in my life, I was terrified. I mean, before that, like, being scared was doing poorly on an assignment, or not being prepared for like a music lesson, or I don't know, having my parents tell me 10 times to clean my room and then hearing my dad walk up the steps and knowing I hadn't cleaned my room yet. Not that he would do that much other than talk to me some more and maybe tell me I couldn't go out. That was about the extent of it. So in that moment, I was terrified. I didn't feel like I had a choice. And choices are so powerful. Choices are so important. And honestly, that's what smart defense is all about, is giving you choices, giving you options. Because when you don't feel like you have a choice, you fall back on fight, flight, freeze, and appease. And honestly, most people freeze. I freeze. It is very rare that a person just naturally fights back. It's easy to like sit back and watch Netflix and be like, oh yeah, if that happened to me, I would do this. I would come out with a sucker punch to the gut. I'd do this, I'd do that. It's easy to sit there and say that. But to actually execute it in the moment, that is incredibly rare unless you practice, unless you've been given tools, unless it's something that you've thought about and you've gone through the scenarios in your mind and you know how to do a sucker punch, or you know how to do a strike, or you know how to do a knee to the groin. Otherwise, are you really going to follow through? It's a rare person that follows through. I've been in this field, in this space, working with survivors and victims now for over 20 years. And I can tell you the number of people who have fought back on one hand without any training, without any experience. In fact, I can think of one person that comes to mind off the top of my head. Just one. That is very, very, very small number, small percentage. So making sure you are equipped with options, with choices, will make all the difference in the world. Now, looking back, if you ask me, oh, Elizabeth, if you knew back then what you know today, would you have still been kidnapped? In all honesty, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But at least I would have been given an option. At least I would have felt like I had an option, and I would have felt like I could maybe do something. But all the safety training in my life had been like fire safety. Who knows what to do if you catch on fire? Yes, everybody knows that. How many of you have ever used that? Looking at this auditorium, though, I mean, I'm not really that great with numbers, but let's say there's 100 people in here. The majority of you, honestly, mostly look like you're women or females. So say there's 75 females in here. That means probably 25 of you have already been sexually abused. That's pretty high. Did stop, drop, and roll help you in that situation? Probably not. Probably not. But would a strike to the groin, would a knee to the groin have helped? Maybe. At least knowing how would have helped, maybe. Maybe have given you some confidence to do something back. And before I continue on, I just want to say, no matter what the situation was, you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing that as a victim you could do that would be wrong in that moment. I will never hold you responsible for what someone else has done to you. It is never your fault. Anyway, I could continue on down that path for a long time, but I know we have limited time, so I'll keep it moving. So in that moment, I didn't feel like I had a choice. I didn't know how to do a strike. I didn't know how to do a knee to the groin. All I knew is that there was a strange man had broken into my house, found my bedroom, was holding a knife to my neck and telling me to go with him. So I did. And I remember he took me up into the mountains behind my home. It was, honestly, it was less than 3.5 miles. Like, I ran further than that this morning on my treadmill. Like, not hugely far away from my house, but it might as well have been around the world, because I felt so powerless. I felt so helpless. I felt like there was nothing that I could do in that moment, and that my sole focus just needed to be on surviving each minute. I remember being brought into this hidden campsite. I remember being brought inside of a tent. I remember being told to change out of the pajamas I had on into these strange robes. There had been a woman waiting for us at this hidden campsite, and she was the one telling me to change and everything. And I just remember sitting on this upturned bucket, feeling like my world had just been completely ripped away from me. Everything was beyond my control. Everything was out of my control. I didn't even know if all of my family were still alive. And so I remember just sitting on this upturned bucket, being so scared, being so nervous. Why was this happening to me? What was going to happen next to me? Why would somebody do this to me? I wasn't anybody. I was nobody. There was nothing special about me. There was nothing that set me apart from anybody else. So why was this happening to me? I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what to do. And I remember the tent door unzipping, and in came this man, and he started speaking, and that's when he told me that I was now his wife. And of course, I was 14. I don't know what I expected him to say, but that was definitely not what I expected him to say. I just remember screaming out no, because how could he think he could just kidnap me and then marry me? I was 14 years old. I was just a kid. And I remember giving him all these reasons as to why it wasn't okay, why it wasn't legal. And every reason that I gave him, he had the same response, which was, we're now married. It's time to consummate our marriage. And I lived a pretty sheltered life up until that point. I only found out what sex was a couple years earlier, and it's because my friend who lived across the street told me what sex was. And when she first told me what sex was, I was appalled. I was so disgusted. I remember just looking at her and being like, what is wrong with you? How on earth would you ever even think that up? That is the most disgusting, disturbing thing I have ever heard. And she's like, no, really, Elizabeth, it's a real thing. It's how babies are made. And I just remember looking at her and being like, that is so gross. That cannot be right. And she kept on saying, no, really, it's how babies are made. And I was like, well, your parents sure did it a lot, because there's 7 of you. And she's like, Elizabeth, I know you're not taking me serious right now, but it's true. And I just remember looking at her and being like, you're trying to tell me that when you grow up and you decide to have kids, a guy just sticks his penis in you and magic pee comes out and you get pregnant? That is the worst thing I have ever heard. She's like, no, it's real, I promise. And honestly, from the time that I learned what sex was to the time that I was kidnapped, the only thing that really changed was that I accepted it as a fact of life. Something that you maybe did 3 or 4 times in your lifetime, just to have babies, and that's it. So as this man keeps telling me, it's now time to consummate our marriage. It's now time to consummate our marriage. I remember just thinking, no, there's no way that can't happen to me. There's just no way one human being could be that evil to do it to another human being. Unfortunately, I found out immediately that yes, those human beings do exist, because he forced me on the ground and he raped me. And when he was finished, he stood up and he smiled and he turned around and walked out of the tent. And for me, that was devastating on so many levels. Physically, I was in a lot of pain. I remember seeing blood running down my legs. Emotionally, I was in a lot of pain. I'd just been ripped away from my family. Spiritually, I grew up going to church every single Sunday. I don't know how many Sunday school lessons I sat through that were on purity, chastity, virtue, which all basically seemed to boil down to the same thing, which was don't have sex before marriage. And now that had happened to me, and no one had taught me that there's a difference between like enthusiastic consensual sex versus sexual violence and rape. I mean, so to me in that moment, that all felt like it was the same thing. So now I'm also feeling a great deal of spiritual pain on top of everything else. I mean, I felt like my life was over. I felt like there was no point in trying to continue, because even if I did survive what my captors had in plan for me, who would want me? Like, who would love me? Who would want to have anything to do with me? I just felt like I was like spoiled goods. I just felt like I was garbage at that moment. And honestly, it took a long time to get over those feelings. I did recognize quickly that my parents would still love me, but beyond my parents, I couldn't imagine anybody else loving me for a long time. It took a long time. And even after I was rescued, even after I was home, I still didn't want to talk about what had happened. I didn't want people to know what had happened. And in fact, when my trial, the trial of my two captors finally took place, I mean, it was almost a decade later. In fact, because it took so long, the statute of limitations almost expired, which would mean that my captors, who everybody knew was guilty, would have been set free because it took so long. Fortunately, the federal court stepped in and took on the case, and they were successfully prosecuted. But that in and of itself is also a miracle, because only 1 out of every 1,000 predators is actually successfully prosecuted. 1 out of 1,000. That is unbelievable. I met a woman years ago who said, "We don't have a justice system, we have a legal system." And unfortunately, I have to say, I agree with her. 1 out of 1,000. That is not justice. And even when someone is prosecuted, that doesn't give you your life back. That doesn't give you your peace of mind back. That doesn't give back like your innocence or your childhood or whatever else it's been taken away from you. It doesn't give that back or make it up to you. So as I move forward in my life, and once my story was out, once the trial had happened, I knew that I wanted to do something bigger than just myself. I felt like if my whole life, or not my whole life, but the worst part of my life was being exposed with such a huge spotlight, I wanted it to do some good in the world. I didn't just want it to be out there. I wanted it to serve a purpose. And that's when my dad and we started the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. And Smart Defense happened because I was on an airplane a few years ago, actually. And I don't think many people would tell you that I lack confidence. In fact, it might be the other way around. I feel like my brothers regularly feel the need to like deflate my head just a little bit. So I don't think anyone would tell you that I lack confidence nowadays, because if you don't have confidence, that is unfortunately a vulnerability, and predators look for vulnerability. So I don't think I lack confidence, but I was on a plane and I fell asleep, which I don't know about you, but it's like once you get on that plane, all the stress of like packing and finally getting to the airport, finally boarding your plane, you're just like, oh, thank heavens I made it, we're here, like I'm just gonna sleep through this flight. It's gonna make everything go by so much quicker. And that's exactly what happened. I got on the plane and I fell asleep, like before we even left the gate. And we were probably, 40 minutes from landing. Like I think we started our initial descent. And all of a sudden, I felt someone's hand rubbing my inner thigh. Now, I was on a plane, like I was traveling by myself. It wasn't like I was traveling with my husband or my kids. So that was not expected. And I remember just opening my eyes and looking down. Sure enough, there's someone's hand, like right here on my thigh, rubbing my inner thigh. And I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and it's this man. And I'm like waiting for him to apologize or say, excuse me, or like give me some kind of reason as to why he was touching me. And he didn't. He just kept his hand there. And I had to like physically pick up his hand and take it off me. And I was just in such shock. Like I froze. I didn't even know what to do again. I froze in that moment. And that got me thinking. I mean, once I got on the ground, I reported it to Delta, I reported it to the FBI. I went through the whole process. But it made me think, wow, if this can happen to me, probably one of the most well-known, survivors in America, who else is this happening to? And do I just look like an easy target? Do I just look like I'm someone good to pick on, someone good to take advantage of? Because it already happened to me once in a pretty drastic way. How can this possibly be happening to me again? And I remember going home to my husband and being like, you'll not believe what happened. I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. This is not okay. If this can happen to me, it's happening to everyone. So I need to do something about it. And honestly, that's how Smart Defense came into existence. I met Mee-yoh, and honestly, if you ever have the chance to train with her, do it. Don't think twice. Do it, because she is incredible and amazing, and she's one of the kindest people you will ever meet. But if you're ever walking down a dark alleyway or somewhere sketchy, she's who I want next to me. Doesn't matter that I'm way taller than her, probably outweigh her a lot. I want her next to me because I know she will protect me. But she also pushes me to protect myself. She pushes me to use my voice. She pushes me to practice. And truthfully, I should be practicing with her a whole lot more because she's an incredible resource and I'm not making the most of the situation. So if you're on the fence about thinking about signing up for Smart Defense next semester, just do it. It gives you tools. It gives you options, and that is one of the greatest gifts you can have, because you become a victim when your options are taken away from you, when your choices are taken away from you. That is when you become a victim. And nobody deserves to be a victim. I don't care who you are or where you're from. Nobody deserves that. And so my final couple of thoughts before I leave is, if something ever does happen to you, and it can be anything, I want you to remember that it's not your fault. You didn't deserve it to happen to you. It's not your fault. We all face hard things in life, every single one of us. If you haven't experienced something yet, which I bet you have, but if you haven't, I'm sorry, just wait. It's coming. Get prepared. I want you to know that whatever bad thing you experience in life, it doesn't define who you are. I mean, you can let it, but ultimately you define who you are by the decisions that you make in your life. And then finally, take time in life to find peace. Take time in your life to find joy. Do the things. It is important to find those meaningful, happy moments, because there will always be hard moments. Hard moments will always come, whether you like it or not. And it's important to remember that happiness is real, because when you go through hard moments, it's easy to feel like life is over. It's easy to feel like there's nothing worth surviving for. But I want you all to know that happiness and joy and fulfillment exists, and it's real. And you should never give up on that. And so as you make your way in the world, good luck. Don't give up. And next semester, sign up for Smart Defense. I'll be very offended if I hear that Snow College only had half a class, okay? Okay. So thank you and good luck.
And Mee-yoh thank you for coming today and for their wonderful words. So we're making an announcement today. Is Mee-yoh? Oh, okay. Come on up. Mee-yoh and Lila, you come too. So, and then maybe, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't bring that up again. So as Corey's coming up here, we are excited to announce today an exciting and unique partnership with the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. We got to get Jackson up here too.
Sorry, I just don't pick on you because we've never.
So earlier this year, I met Mee-yoh at an event that I was invited to for women in higher education. I guess it was more than just women, but a lot of us went, and we were on the floor of the Delta Center down where the Jazz play, and we learned some self-defense moves. And I'm definitely one of those people too who I'm not loud, I'm not aggressive, physically at least. And so it was really kind of uncomfortable for me. I took my daughter with me, and going through that process, it was just so inspiring and really empowering. And actually, after I left that day, I haven't told her this, but after I left that day, I was in the process of applying for this job. And this job is kind of high pressure, and it causes a lot of self-doubt. And it was really, really good timing for me to attend that session that day. It helped me a lot. So anyway, after the meeting was over, I went over to introduce myself to the sponsor of the meeting, and Elizabeth spoke there too and was super inspiring to me as well and to my daughter. And so afterwards, I went over to thank the sponsor for the meal that we had had that night, and that was Corey Shelley, who is a Snow College alumnus, as well as his business partner, Jackson Ogden. And they both went to Snow College. They were roommates here. They had the best time of their lives. And anyway, it was just amazing when I went over to thank Corey for sponsoring the event. And he said, he was from Snow College and everything. So then he introduced me to Mee-yoh. And I said, Mee-yoh, we need to have smart defense at Snow College. Let's do it. And so Lindsay Cheney, who I'm not sure if she's okay, Lindsay Cheney, who is our assistant provost, got together immediately with Mee-yoh, and they said, let's have this class at Snow College. So for the first time this fall, we have our Smart Defense class, and some of our students are right here. And so we are very excited to continue on with the class. But in addition to the class, as we met later with Corey and First Colony Mortgage, we said, is there something more that we could do? So today we're announcing that First Colony is sponsoring a scholarship for 2 students to be ambassadors on campus and off campus here in Central Utah. This program will start in the spring. The prerequisite to apply is you have to have taken the Smart Defense course. So we'll be offering this. We'll be offering this class again next semester. This is PE 1400 for all of you who are getting ready to register for classes next semester. That's PE 1400. So I'm just excited today to make that announcement. We appreciate First Colony with Jackson and Corey, and we want to have them come back down a whole lot more. Corey was on the basketball team at Snow College, so we're going to have him down for a game for sure. And then also Mee-yoh for coming down. Mee-yoh has been coming down personally to teach the classes herself at Snow. And then one of her partners is coming to teach the men's class. So there's a men's class and a women's class right now. And Jackson told me he took the first cohort of the men's class that was developed. And then thank you to Elizabeth for inspiring all of us and for also making this possible. And to Lila for being our amazing example. And we're putting a lot of pressure on her, but we hope she's a Badger someday soon too. So yes. So students, I just say to you, take the Smart Defense course, PE 1400. This qualifies you to apply for the scholarship and the ambassador role, gives you a wonderful leadership and work opportunity, and it's up to full tuition for 1 year, so it's pretty significant. So thank you, First Colony. Thank you, Mee-yoh, Elizabeth, Lila. Thanks to all of you for being here today.
So right now there will be a reception just behind here, and thanks everybody for coming out, and we hope to see you at the reception. All right, thank you.